Yeah, because so you just touched on in the intro the multitasking. You're definitely a multitasking man for a long time, haven't you been?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Okay, so punk rock person. Um, my roots are in this community, so everything's been, do it yourself. So like the reason why I do a variety of things is basically because nobody would do them for me in any way, shape, or form. So I learned how to do a lot of stuff and I continually to learn every day. But yeah, there's always multitasking going on. I co-own a record label distribution company that we've had for a long time. So there's always work to do, you know, with that, and that's like where I am here in the warehouse. Um, and I also run a printing company, Bannon Printing, which is basically myself doing a variety of like print work for other labels and visual artists, things like that. Like t today, for example, I'm in the middle of a like a 600 piece print run that I'm trying to do, and then tomorrow I have to start numbering them all. Um, so it's that's how like my days go. And then
Yeah,
I try to be creative in the middle of in those things. Yeah, so like I have a variety of day jobs basically is what it comes down to. I think you could probably divide it into three or four.
yeah. In
Yeah.
between as well as yeah, because I know of all those things you do that are all fantastic. We're definitely going to dip into that as well. But you're
Sure.
also the mundane as well, like the mundane as in like normal life stuff, being a parent, keeping
Mhm.
fit, and yeah, keeping your head on. It's all in between of all that as well. We all That's the mix of that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and that all that um yeah, it's a lot, man. Like it really is. Like, I mean, I don't know if I'm not sure how it works for schooling and vacation down there, but like, I have two boys and they're home from vacation this week, so that's a lot, you know. Um, they're my wife's holding it down, doing all the things while I'm doing this and yeah, so I mean there's I just try to be as present as I possibly can. I'm sure I have deficiencies everywhere, but just doing my best.
That's all of us, and I get where you're coming from. I've got a teenage boy as well, and I know those holiday periods. It's a restless energy, 100, a big deal. Um,
Yeah, like well, they're starting to get to the age where they they like spending time with each other, which is beautiful. And it's beautiful to see. So, I definitely have that going for me.
that's awesome. I wanted to. I'm definitely obviously going to touch on the album. I just want to touch on
Mhm.
your Substack as well because I, I'm a big fan of the band over a long time and all of your work, but I really love and enjoy your Substack because I think it's a very honest document. It kind of comes across, that you kind of it's a insight to the working artist, but it kind of away from the mythology and about the kind of more about the texture and um
Yeah.
the insight. Was there a particular reason you chose that format and writing about it, does that what's the insight on that for you? That's what I suppose what I'm saying because
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
fantastic,
No,
man.
no, for sure. Well, the hardest thing for that has really just been like trying to carve out the time to be able to edit and do the things properly, like I have two pieces that I still have to finish editing to get up there. And also sometimes, a moment will come where you feel compelled to write about something. And, I'm a writer that is usually working in prose, and then that stuff is kept personal until I have to shape it and turn it into a song, right? So like long form writing is just a different animal. Um, but I very much enjoy it. I very much enjoy letting people into that process and just to sort of understand it, like if they care. Like here's the thing, like I'm just just a person, you know, And so I like to I feel that it's that sometimes when when you're like a person that's just creating things, people don't really see your face or understand who you are or have like a good understanding of what your intent is just through the art and lyrics. So I think adding a human being to that and discussing things in a bigger, uh, more specific way when it comes to creation of things is super important. Um, and it was a sort of a gamble to do because I wasn't sure anyone would care at all, you know. Um, but I've definitely connected with some really great people through there, and I'm really enjoying the process. But yeah, again, the hardest thing is just fitting it in.
Yeah.
Um, you know, but I am definitely going to continue doing it. I really do enjoy it.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic because it's a kind of an insight. It lifts the veil into, even though it's the kind of the ordinary weight of it all, but it's also to kind of, yeah, you peer into it from your perspective, whether it's the recording of the album or the vocal tips or or other current stuff. Yeah, I think it's fantastic.
Oh,
I
thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, and I just want to keep progressing that and keep, exploring that. I've done some writing outside of, lyrical prose and whatnot over the years, but like never anything that kind of structured. So it's yeah, it's nice to it's just a different it's a different view of the same animal.
100%. I wanted to obviously touch on the new album. So yeah, that's just dropped. Fantastic album. Yeah, it's killer. It's so I think it's very raw and it kind of almost strips things back. And I love how, there's no easing of the accelerator pedal. What was kind of like the aim of it? Because yeah, obviously it's followed, there's a few different pace levels and tempo levels. It's a short album, but yeah, I kind of like the rawness, the punk kind of ethos to it. It's very straight from the throat, confrontational.
Mhm.
I mean, I know it's not like you've it's been a, ambient chill, your catalog, but you
Sure.
know where I'm coming from.
I do. And it's an interesting place. It's an interesting place creatively because like, like I'm hearing people like have those sorts of yeah, that kind of feedback to our material. And like, I don't see it as any different than any other thing that we've worked on because I don't view music in that way where like I'm not analyzing what we do from album to album or anything like that. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's very much a very it's an important thing and it's part of fandom and it's part of just taking in music in general. But from an artistic perspective or the artist perspective, I just yeah, I just don't really unpack that. Um, the only thing I would say to that is, you know, we definitely set out to make a very raw record. That's very much just like the core four of us, and we really haven't done that in the modern age of music. As much as like, we've been active and we've been doing tons of things. We've put out releases. We did the Blood Moon album, but that was not in the modern time of music. And what I mean by that is like the way people interact with their music, with their art, with their through social media, through these interactions. It's a vastly different way of taking in music. This is the first one that we've done that like, I mean, I don't think Spotify canvases were invented when we put out the last record. Apple Motion was just starting. You know, so these are things that are like they may seem like inconsequential to some, but to to me it opens up a whole nother world of like interaction and sort of just like ways that we can artfully present our bands. And so we're getting to do that in 2026, which is, a super cool experience.
Yeah, I mean it's yeah, because I mean the technology and the way it's taken up is all quite different all the time. But you need to, as you said, if you kind of stepped into the analysis of it and that it's different from the artist's point of view, isn't it? You're creating what
Yeah,
you know. It's it's
for
not made
sure.
towards a we're focusing on this style and this is how it's going to come out. It's not, it's far from that.
Well, if you start off, with an idea like that, that's like real, like kind of like rigid, you're not going to enjoy the experience as it evolves, right? Like, you need to, it's a fluid thing, and you need to go where it takes you. And oftentimes I feel that, if a band gets sort of like stuck in like we're gonna do this and make something that's a specific way, or just anybody, like any creative person, whatever, like you'll set yourself up for disappointment if you don't roll with the artistic process, because it veers, it goes off course. And sometimes it veers in a good direction, sometimes it veers in a negative direction, but you need to be able to kind of like go with that flow. And sometimes you have to chase it. Sometimes it takes a minute, even for a song that can be 2 minutes long, it might take, days of debate. Um, it just is what it is.
Yeah, because I mean, it's that process and it being natural, isn't it? I think it's like even when you start as
Yeah.
a band, and I'm in bands as well. It's like you evolve and what how it comes about. It's not just if you're very rigid about it. It's yeah, it doesn't end well. It's
No, I mean, maybe somebody can make a cool grid and say like this is the ebb and flow of how we want to make a record, and then you can do it like that. But like that's not how our creativity works. Like as a band, we don't get to practice like weekly or anything like that. Three of us live near each other, but our lives in California. So for us to do anything, he has to travel here. So like I think some of that stuff would probably happen if we were like a band that kind of, just like jammed all the time and got together and kind of worked through things. But usually we're kind of like, we get together and go, hey, so what do you want to work on? And it's kind of loose and it takes like a day or two to kind of like get in the sort of rhythm of things. And sometimes you end up chasing an idea and you're going like, hey, that was a cool idea. Let's try this version of it. Let's try this version of it. And then 11 versions later, you go, no, forget about it. We'll come back to that later. But it's a very real part of the process for us.
100%. I was going to say because you were talking about as the four individuals working together. Do like sometimes is it a war with your general sound of abrasion and melody? Because it kind of seems like it's sometimes in conflict, but it carries that tension. So um, you know, it's is it sometimes just a clash of those two things, like as in a bit of that sort of ambience and also the aggression as well? Because there's a lot of tension in your music, isn't there? Like
Yeah,
and I mean that in a good way because I love it.
totally.
Like
But it's also like it's a natural tension. It's because we're
mm,
fucking tense people. We're
yeah,
we're we're frustrated fucking working class artists that are like feel like we're I don't know, at least for me, I feel like I'm under a lot of pressure all the time. Not artistic pressure, but sort of like outside forces, um, and maybe inside forces too. But that's like what's driving me. That's what I'm working through, So you hear that, you feel that for sure. And I think that that rings true for most artists, and musicians. Like when I hear Kurt play a riff, for example, it might it might sound like a great riff, but he's also working through all of the emotional things in his head that he's been going through in his life. And all of those little nuances are coming out in those songs and those little chord hits, those little note hits, the way a string is sort of reverberating. If if he hits it a little too hard and it bottoms out on a pickup or something like that. Um, that's emotion. You hear that, you feel that. And I feel with our band, a lot of that tension is very much palpable in the material itself. You can hear us. It's almost like you can hear words when we're not saying them. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that's where the beauty of it, and that's where people don't always, take it to that. And is it because that emotional terrain of the lyrics and that is it sometimes what am I trying to say? It's like does it have diminishing returns because it's a lot of
Mm.
self-exposure, isn't it? Because the lyrics are quite personal, whereas they're not storytelling, but it's kind of almost I don't know if it's cathartic or a process,
Mm.
but it's definitely yeah, because it's a lot of self-exposure, isn't it? It's really opening those wounds. So
Yeah, it's fucking awful, to be
yeah,
honest. Uh, it's funny. I was over next door in the tow yard because there's a tow yard next door. Friends with some of those guys, and they're very average people. Okay, so they're not tied to art or music in a way that like any of us that are sort of fanatics are about anything. They're just very average. And I yeah, it's funny because I'm sure that they all have all of those same things within them too, but they're not putting themselves out there because they're not putting that opportunity. And I think about that sometimes. I'm like, man, like maybe I should just bottle it all up and be like one of those guys over there, where like I can see it. I can see the tension in their body and I can see
absolutely.
I can see the miles, just like you can see the miles on anybody.
Yeah.
But like I'm like, am I doing myself a disservice by trying to find peace through art and music, or am I on a road that's just not traveled very often? And I think it's the latter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, I think it's the latter. I don't know if it's making me a better person, but I'm trying, and I being that vulnerable is part of that, like it's it. Like if I didn't do that, if I just went up there and just like just like sang songs about, I don't know, just not about much, just stuff that was more decorative, I wouldn't be fulfilled. I wouldn't want to be there, you know? Like for me, like the vulnerability, at least in this band, is essential.
Yeah, I mean, I think it carries through in from the performance, the art, and everything. I think it's just that, yeah, to have that, that outlet from that vessel. Yeah, you kind of wonder if people, if they haven't got that outlet, where it goes. And we know sometimes, there's always, negative things. It bursts like a faucet, I suppose.
Yeah, for
If,
sure.
if it's built up, there's no outlet. Um, is there any main themes? And I know always, you've said, and as well as other people, that it's open to interpretation. Is there any main themes of the album? Like I know it's, it
Well,
carries.
it's an album. Oh, you finish your thought. Finish your thought.
No, 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 no. Go
Oh,
on. That's the
okay.
yeah. I mean, intrigued about what it's yeah the themes.
Yeah. Well, all albums kind of end up with like an overarching theme, uh, eventually, inadvertently, right? It's always going to happen. I know with me, um, usually it's about personal experiences, self-discovery, self-improvement, all that. Um, this album, I'm actually like looking at the lyrical content to sort of see the through line. I think it's reflective of the times we live in. I think it's a mirror to myself. It's the mirror to ourselves. It's a mirror to society at large. Our flaws and our deficiencies, uh, and what we need to work on, um, and what I need to work on. And I think that that's the theme. If getting to the sort of like raw nerve of all of those things is kind of there's like an overarching theme. It's kind of like what it is. Um, but it's not like a thematic record, like a record that's about, you know, birds or whatever, or,
Yeah.
it's like, or something.
Concept
Yeah, just like
album.
something. Yeah, well, like, because theme can get real goofy real quick and turn into concept, like, and that might be great, but it's also a really daunting thing. That's just like not the way I've only written it like that once, and it was really challenging. But it wasn't for this band, and I enjoyed the process immensely. But it was like, yeah, trying to find the do something that was a concept album was like, wow, this is like it's like writing a novel.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of weight to it. I wanted to talk about the kind of bizarre kind of critical kind of gravity around Jane Doe. It's almost like a albatross around the neck because I find it very funny because all everybody talks about is Jane Doe. And I mean, and I know you've had this conversation before, but I mean, I know it was a groundbreaking album, but I think it's hysterical because I think you've done way better work, and I think it's built on that, and even, you know, it's a striking image even as artwork, but there's so much more stuff. So how is that for you?
Yeah.
Because it seems fucking irritating because it's just like it's Jane Doe was
Mm.
the roof, the pinnacle, and everything else was, it's
Well, I mean
it's so
that's
funny.
a
Like it's yeah,
totally well that's like it's like a weird generalization, but like for me as a person, like I don't, to me it's in a line of a variety of records that we did. We did records before and we did records after,
yeah,
and they're all emotionally fulfilling and about points in our lives, like that, and that one's no different. Um, when it was initially released, it was pretty much panned, like I mentioned this before in other interviews. I have like a just an old plastic shelf up there. I have a bunch of mail bins in there, and one of them has the old press packet from that record that was sent to us by the PR company that the label at the time, Equal Vision, hired for that. Um, and they the press people did a wonderful job. They did their thing, but they were like they 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 pitched it to all of the magazines and things that existed at the time, right? And back then, this genre or subgenre, however you want to define it, wasn't really something that was wholly understood. It was still quite fresh, and people really weren't connecting with it as they do now. So most of the reviews are quite negative. Uh, they either they didn't understand the art, or they didn't understand the sort of chaos of the music, or they were just unwilling to try to understand either of them. And that's okay. It's fine. It's what it is. But because everyone's different. But that also spoke a lot about the time that we were living in. Like things were very compartmentalized. Genres had subgenres, but they didn't have like subgenres yet that people really understood. You know what I mean? Um, Even like what we consider today as modern metalcore, which like our band doesn't have anything to do with,
yeah,
but like that style of like music was basically just starting to happen, like it was just like, and people, and that stuff was like the sort of the stuff that was palatable by people because it had like the good cop, bad cop sort of vocal thing that just kind of creates these melodious hooks that people go, oh, okay, well, I heard the scary thing and now I hear the other thing, and now I have both things. Like our band wasn't rooted in any of that stuff, so it was just like really hard for people to understand. I imagine it would probably be like trying to like, I don't know, like review a, like a black metal record at the time.
yeah, yeah,
Or like for and not for a black metal reviewer, but for a or aficionado, but like somebody in I don't know, we had like, glam metal magazines or something, trying to understand thrash or something like that and just be like, what the fuck is this? Like that's like literally like the attitude we got towards most stuff. So like that made, an impression on me. As a kid, when I saw that, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Well, like, we get this nice solid C minus, D plus across the board by this world of sort of music critics. And we're like, it is what it is. It doesn't change how we do things or like how, we perceive things. We just kept doing our thing. Over time, audiences build and people start to understand music and art in a different way and start to connect with ourselves and other bands of the genre in a deeper, sort of more meaningful way. And that's, it's fucking great. Um, it, I'm glad that it's taken on a life of its own like that, but like, I don't have a reverence for it like anybody, like people who do. Um, and that's okay. I shouldn't because I'm a guy who is, um, continually making music and art and for me it's all about forward movement and progression and if I was stuck in a weird little spot from 25 years ago that'd be a weird place for me to be you know
Yeah.
so I, I just try to like continue on. And it's funny like when people like I've seen some some feedback here or there about stuff. And it's every once in a while people be like, oh, they've been doing this style thing for a bajillion years. Yeah, been a band for a long time. Great observation. Um, like, is that bad? That like, should we have done it for should we have done it for 6 years and then broke up and then reformed 25 years later and say, look how awesome we are, or like, or how we used to be when we were kids, or should we cut our teeth for 30 something years playing music that fulfills us and challenges us and brings light to our lives, um, and then like sit here and talk about it. That to me is way more fulfilling than just one record. You know what I mean? But hats off to the bands that do have one record because everyone wants that makes music wants to connect with somebody in some way. You're right. Like, so it is what it is. Um, but I appreciate that people care about that record as they do, but it's definitely not like where my story starts and stops. I know that.
Yeah. And I think it's yeah. And I think it's yeah. I mean that's the place for like shitty forums where people can debate about it and they can be
But and
fixed
that's
on.
and that's where they should and
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
exactly why those exist. It's like, yeah, go for it. Like that's where you guys should talk about this stuff. But like I'll have people that will come up to me and literally say, like tell me like about how a record is or how it should be that we've created. Pretty sure you weren't there, And it's like it is what it is. But music's subjective, it connects with people in all different ways, and I just appreciate that anyone comes to the dance in some way.
Yeah. I think it's so subjective. I think it's for me, I loved it because it's got throwbacks to a lot of stuff you've done, and I love the journey. I love the progression. I think that's good. And as we said, because a lot of bands get bogged down on it, but sometimes some bands do the same thing forever, and that's okay. Um, yeah, yeah, it's a fantastic album. I think.
Well, thank you. I know that we all, we worked really hard on it, and we really appreciate that it's connected with people and the way it is. Um, I haven't really listened back to it much, to be honest.
mm,
It's usually in like snippets and things while I have to, because being a label guy, I have to be involved in all the things for the record. Um, and it's still very potent to me. Like there's still parts of that are even now, like so a little ways into the process, I'm still affected by it if I hear it. So I try not to. And that tells me that I made something unique with the guys, that I made something potent, powerful, and pure, that like it resonates with me in a way that affects me. And that's the intent, to hopefully affect change in some positive way. And if it's emotional for me, hopefully it'll be emotional in a positive way.
Yeah, and I think that's the opposite. I mean, obviously, yeah, I come from the DIY punk background as well, and that's what we don't want throwaway stuff. And if you're getting that connection, then that's a huge win.
Absolutely.
I wanted to because yeah, I'll chat to it another time about more about the art stuff and that, but I definitely just wanted to touch on about because I love your art. I love this, I love the aesthetic of it, but I want to talk about how um there's the aggression and again that word tension again in it, but it's you've got a lot of brightness and color in it. That's what I love. I love that's a and again it's a subjective thing, but what shapes that kind of visual language? I mean, I know your dad was an artist as well, and the medium is your choice, but um, what's your take on that? The brightness and color, and at the same time the aggression in it, or the kind of grimness to it. I'm just interested in
Well,
that.
from a designer perspective, right? So like I approach a lot of visual things from a designer perspective because that's what I kind of view. I graduated with my BA in design. Um, to me, design is simply just visual problem solving. And one of the biggest conundrums that you can have when you're working on a sort of multifaceted art thing or art piece that has music, visual art, lyrics, all this stuff is trying to make things cohesive in a way. And with our band, I try to, obviously, well, all bands, I try to listen to them, but I listen to the material and really think on the material. And I think about the nuances and the layers of things and like the attention to detail, but also the sort of electricity of it and the sort of energy of it that's very kinetic and it's moving. Like, okay, well, how can I visually present these things in the way that is within my wheelhouse and skill set? For lack of better terminology, like I don't know what I am. What I am, I'm a designer, artist, mixed media artist, whatever. I do a ton of collage work. Like behind you, behind me, that's all collage work. That's me cutting and pasting 6,000 paintings and 6,000 things to try to make it be the thing that I want it to be. Because I'm not, well, number one, that's how I learned. So that's where I come from. I come from collage art. I come from fanzines. I come from flyer art. That's the stuff that brought me to the dance, and that's still the way I make stuff. It's all cut and paste. I have 60,000 scraps of things on this table over here to my right.
Wow.
It's how I work. Um, and there's a lot of trial and error in that. But what my goal, especially within this band, is to with the visuals, is to really create this sort of like multi-layered textural representation of what the music is. So I'm trying to add another level of narrative that can deepen somebody's understanding of the material itself. And so that's what I do within our band. There's some things that I just do that are fun to me. Honestly, like um, in most Converge records, probably from I would say it's probably from when Forever Comes Crashing On. I started messing around with iconography and like I had like a bunch of visuals that we'd start to mess with and use to sort of identify our band. And one of them was this symbol, which was part of a medical apparatus to find imperfections in one site. And it had all these interesting geometrical sort of shapes to it. And it called to me. And so I pulled it out, started playing with it. And sort of over time in all of our records, it's appeared since then, but it's been slowly morphing and disintegrating over time. So in the piece behind you or piece behind me, there's like fragments of it that are stabbing into the earth, that are shooting out of the chaos, that are embedded into the wings of the things. All of these little fragments that they might not look like anything are still coming from that same file and that same sort of old identity that's always been there, and I've always wanted to evolve with that. I've always felt that was like really fun to do, this like constant sort of explosion and reconfiguration of these visual things. And they've appeared in the Chain record, You Fail Me, No Heroes, X to Fall, All We Love, Dusk in Us, now here, and that, did you ever skateboard?
Yeah, yeah, for
Were
sure.
you,
That's it. Yeah, the
all
entry
right.
point, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So like, do you remember like the Rob Roscott boards,
Yeah,
that Jim
vaguely. Yeah,
Phillips
yeah.
did? And the original one was just the target, and then the arm came through the target, and then the
That's
third one came out. And then usually most people relate the Rob Roscott thing to like, I think board two or three. And then it continued going and it got like biomechanical, then it got bigger, then eventually just became the face. And then then it did a bunch of other stuff after that. But it was like this really interesting sort of storyboard that was sort of unveiled over time. And I just like the idea of that sort of thing and having these through lines through albums, when you apply it to music. And so I've done that. It's appeared in most things, um, just over and over again. And in that record, in the art behind me and in this record, it's like, it's embedded in tiny little fragments of things everywhere. And yeah, that's all by design.
yeah. I think it's fantastic. Have you? One thing I just thought about. Have you ever had like an exhibition of stuff? I've never.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've had a dozen or so. Yeah.
yeah,
It's been a minute. But yeah, no, I've been part of a variety of group shows, and I've done a variety of exhibitions and whatnot for sure.
yeah. I wondered about that. I figured, yeah, it must be because you even do sculpture as well. Because I know you do a lot of different facets of art, but because
Yeah,
I've seen
so
even on the website you got some sculptures as well.
yeah, we has these skulls, these resin cast skulls that I made for an art show actually, a handful of years ago, and we still had the mold, and we are like, let's just do something fun with this and continue doing fun things. And I was like, well, the original ones I did were like, they were just like solid or transparent colors, and we're like, "Ooh, I was like, I want to paint them and do some fun stuff with them." And so yeah, we do things like that. I do a lot of print work. I do offer originals here and there. I'll probably do a lot more of that this year. But again, like going back to like being like a sort of like working middle class artist, like,
Yeah,
my creative time like gets sucked up so fast, or my time gets sucked up so fast that like I don't like that. I need extra time to do that sort of thing. Like as much as I'm doing creative things through our band and for clients and whatnot, very rarely do I get a chance to do art only for myself, as like my own sort of entity. It's always tied to something else. Um, and sometimes that feels unfortunate, because I'm not getting to sort of do exactly the thing that I'd like to be doing. But that's also the economy of life, and it is what it is. Um, and then when there is time, I need to feel motivated to do so. So art's a tricky thing like that. Um, I need to be motivated to do it. I need to be inspired to do it. So it doesn't always just come. So all the other stuff, though, when it is tied to a project, I have no choice. I have to do it. So all of the work for this band, for example, like this stuff like behind you, all that collage work, it's like I had a deadline and had to go for it. So it was like they all have like a life outside of just being a piece of art. They're always tied to something. But yeah, I'll definitely do some more stuff in the future.
yeah. That's I know your time's nearly up. I thanks for that insight to that because I think that's fantastic and that's one thing I love about the albums. I think you got to look at the whole bigger picture and then your art pieces rather than just a little snapshot, but that has to exist. Um, I have to ask the question: wait, is Australia on the cards in the future? I know you've constantly been out here and you know that you get a good response. Is that
Yeah, I mean,
And
we're trying. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
like we're trying. We've been trying to connect with some promoters over there and make something happen. Nothing's happened yet. But there's some cool stuff happening there that we've tried to sort of align our schedules with so we could, play play some festivals there, do some things. And yeah, it's just about getting all the ducks in a row.
to line up. Yeah,
Um Yeah, it's like super challenging. It's also it's super expensive, So
yeah.
like,
That's the
like we're not because we're like as people we're like we just can't be like just drop a few grand
yeah.
on plane tickets, So like so we need to make sure that like we can make it all work feasibly and put something together uh that is just fun to do. But yeah, we'll come over again for sure. I it, I doubt it could be this year, but I'm not sure. Um, but yeah, there's again, this is the kind of thing too. It's like no one responds to you for like the longest time, and they have no interest. And then like you release a record or you have some sort of momentum, then people start reaching out and going like, "Oh, can we have you on this thing?" So who knows? Maybe some opportunities will come up that weren't there previous, and then we can get over there. But I really enjoyed touring in Australia and doing doing New Zealand and playing Tasmania and stuff. It was great.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, it's as I said, it's always well received. I know that yeah, some new promoters as well, and I know they're definitely they're trying at it. They're huge fans of the band as well, so they're sort of definitely trying to line that up. But
Well, and also I gotta say too, COVID messed up everything, right? So the
yeah,
economy of most live music kind of washed out most promoters. Like, people had
yeah,
to sort of veer. And I get it. Like it's heavy, but it's life, You can't sometimes the labor of love is there isn't enough love, you
that's
know. You get burnt out. And so like COVID definitely did that to a lot of people that were in that aspect of the music world. So yeah, hopefully we'll connect with some of these new people and we'll get over there.
yeah, that'd be fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. As I said, hopefully in the future we can connect to sort of talk about non-music stuff and that. I'd like to go even deeper when it fits
Absolutely.
in to find those holes in the schedule. That'd
Yeah,
be
no, I'm like
fantastic.
honestly, interviews are always are usually quite easy to schedule. It's all the other stuff that's the
Yeah,
hard stuff.
yeah, that's the
Well,
thing.
thank you, Mark. I appreciate your time, Mark, and yeah, and hopefully we'll be there soon.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, thanks again, and thanks for the body of work and everything you
Thank
do.
you.
Yeah, it means a lot to me and to a lot of people. And take it easy. I hope you get some chance to breathe some air and some
Yeah.
quiet
T
moments.
Today, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm gonna go home now and try not to do anything for at least an hour.
Excellent.
We'll see. Yes.
All right.
All right.
Thanks
Well,
again. Thanks for your time.
all right. Thank you so
I
much.
appreciate it.
All right.
Take
Bye,
care.
Mark.
Thanks.
Okay.